Good morning all. So in this video we will learn about the most commonly used control statements in programming. So so the learning objectives will be we'll be studying about if statement, switch case, a ternary operator, for loop, while loop, do while loop, and also the break and continuous statements. Also, we'll be discussing about the nested conditions and loops for handling the complex logic structures, right? So this is the idea behind this particular video. So let's start with the if statement. And if statement is used to make decisions in the program. So it check a condition, and if that condition is true, it executes a block of code. Okay. If the condition is false, then it executes another block of code. That is what the concept of if statement. So let's take this particular flowchart. So as I explained, this if statement, right, it will check for a condition. If it is true, it is executing a block of code. If it is false, it is executing another block of code, right? This is the if body and the else body, and finally it is going to the next set of statements which is below the if statement, right? And then finally it exits. So this is what the concept behind this if statement. So in the last class I have explained you with some analogy or examples, right? So I hope you remember all those things. So this is the basic idea behind the if statement. Let's say if we want to use else if, that is there are multiple conditions, right? If you want to make multiple conditions, right, we can use if else statements, right? And this is the flowchart for the if else if and else conditions, right? So it will check for the first condition. If it is true, it will execute the statements, that is statement 1. If it is false, it is checked for another condition, right? And it is executing the statements if it is true. And if it is again false, it is checked for the third condition, and then it is executing the statement 3. And finally, again, if it is false, then it is going for the else body. So for each and every conditions 1, 2 and 3, it is executing the conditions, that is else if, right? And finally it is executing the else body. That is what the idea behind this if and else, right? So as it is mentioned in the PowerPoint, executes a block based on the logical condition. Only one block runs per condition. That is the important point here. Only one block runs per condition in the chain. So this is what the idea behind this what is that if statement, right? So let's take this example. So if the score is greater than 90, it will be A plus. So I am printing it as A plus. If the score is greater than 75, I am printing it as grade B. And if the score is greater than 60, I can give C. Likewise, many conditions we can make. What is the final condition is else. Else I am giving it as try again, right? So let me try this in the JavaScript, right? So let me paste here, right? Fine. So now here the problem here is that I have to initialize the score, right? So let score is equal to say 80. So I have given that the score is equal to 80. So in this case, it has to print the grade as B, right? So let's run it. So it's successfully printing as B, right? So likewise, if I am printing giving and say 90, right, 90. Now it is printing as let's say B, because it is greater than 90. Up to 90, it is going to show as B. Okay, grade B. So let me make it as 91. So it is A plus. So likewise, we can check for multiple conditions. So let me give another example. Let me give it as 65. It will show it as try again. see, try again. So this is what the idea behind this if else loop. Okay, fine. So now let's move on to the next one. Fine. Right. So this is the example I have taken. So what you do is that try for this exercise. So I have given the flow chart, write the code of it, right? So initially you have to initialize with the temperature, right? And then if the temperature is greater than 30, it's a hot day. If it is less than 30, it is going to be a cold day, right? Again, what I am doing here is that I am giving another condition. If the temperature is greater than 20, it is a warm day, else it is going to show it as a cold day, right? So try to write a code for this particular flow chart. Okay, this is exercise 1. Fine. So now switch statement. Now you should know about what is a switch statement and why it is used. Okay. So the switch case statement is an alternative to multiple if-else statements. Okay, it is actually the alternative to multiple if-else statements. So here we are using multiple if-else statements, right? So instead of using this, what you can do is that you can use switch statement. So here the syntax here is that initializing with a particular variable and a value, right? And then for each case I'm giving a particular statements. Let's say here for case apple a statement, for case banana a statement, and finally a default case is there, right? Okay, so let me check out this. Let me copy this and I'll be pasting this here. Okay, fine. So what is happening here? Let fruit is equal to apple. I initialize it as apple, right? So if it is apple, then it is executing this particular case. Okay, and it is breaking from this loop and is coming out of it, right? Okay, if it is banana, then it will be executing this. Okay, and then it is breaking the loop and it is coming out from this loop, right? So let me execute this. So it is printing as apples are sweet, right? Let me give another switch case, banana. So let me run this. So bananas are yellow, right? So if I'm giving some other fruit, let's say orange. So if I give it as orange, so what is happening now? There is no orange case, right? The case is only for apple and as well as for the banana, right? So in this case, what will happen, since the fruit is orange, directly go to the default case. Okay, so every switch statement will be having a default case. Okay, so if none of the conditions are actually working, then it will go to the default case. Okay, so since I gave it as orange, so it will execute unknown fruit. Let me execute this. So it is showing as unknown fruit. I think there is an internet problem. Yes, it is an unknown fruit, right? This is what the switch case. So to explain it very simple, it is just an alternative to the if-else statement, right? If-else if statements, right? That is multiple conditions we are checking in if-else statements, right? So instead of doing that, what you can use is that you can use the switch statement. So when it is useful, you may be asking, sir, why I have to use the switch statement? So it is useful when checking multiple exact values. Okay, so that is what the idea behind the switch statement. So if you want to check multiple exact values, you can use switch statement, right? Fine. Okay, so now here I have used, let's say day is equal to 3. I have initialized with day is equal to 3, and then I am giving this switch case for different days, 1, 2, 3, 4, likewise, right? So for each day I am printing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. So based on that it will execute it. So let me try this. It's very simple. So let me copy this and let me paste this, right? So here, since I gave it as 3, it will execute the case 3, so it will show the output as Wednesday. So it is showing as Wednesday. So if I am giving some other day, like say 5 or 6, it will be executing the default case. It will be invalid day, right? Right. So fine. So this is what the idea behind this switch case. Okay. Fine. So now the next exercise. So try this exercise, exercise 2. So here traffic light is equal to yellow. That is, I am initializing with traffic light is equal to yellow. Then 4 cases are there. If it is red, what I have to do? If it is yellow, what I have to do? Green, what I have to do? And default is invalid signal. So this is what the flowchart for this. So what you have to do is that try to write this exercise. So already I have given one exercise, that is the temperature exercise for the if-else statement, if-else-if statements. Then the second exercise is the switch case statement, right? Now finally the third one is ternary statement. Okay, so first, why we are going to use a ternary statement? The ternary operator is a shortcut for the if-else statement. So it works in a single line and improves the code readability. Okay, so it is exactly similar to a if-else statement. Okay, but the point here is that, so if we are using if-else statement, the code will be having a long or more number of statements or more number of lines. So to reduce the number of lines, we are using the ternary statement. Okay, ternary statement. So it will be shown, or it will be represented in a single line. That is the idea behind this ternary statement. Okay, so let's take this. Okay. Okay, fine. So here let me take this particular example. Let age is equal to 20. Okay, fine. Let result is equal to age greater than or equal to 18 question mark adult and minor. So what is happening here is that the age greater than or equal to 18 represents the condition, and this is the true condition, and colon, this is the false condition. Okay. So let me execute this, then you can able to understand clearly. First time what I am going to do is, let me copy and paste this in the right. Fine. So now initially I initialized with the variable age and the value is 20 here. So let result is equal to, right, result is the output. So I have to initialize the result. No, that is why I used let here. Then is equal to age greater than or equal to 18. This is the condition. Okay, this is the condition, and question mark. So this question mark represents, okay, here which is the after this question mark, the first represents the true condition, and after the colon it represents the false condition. Okay, so now what is happening, if age is equal to 20 means what? It will print the result as adult. Okay, if age is equal to, say, if I'm giving it as 16 or 15, it will print as minor. Okay, let me execute this. So it is adult. Okay, if I'm giving it as, let's say, 16, then it will show as minor. Okay, well and good. Now to understand it more clearly, what I'm planning is, let me explain this and how this is converted into a ternary statement. Okay, ternary statement. Fine. So here let mark is equal to 85. So I initialize with the mark as 85. So if the mark is greater than 90, grade A, greater than 70 means grade B, greater than 60 means grade C. Okay, so here what I used, if, else if, else if, else, and finally the else condition represent with the fail. Okay, this is what the code. The same thing what I can write, no, I can write like this. So let mark is equal to 85, let grade, okay, because I have to print the grade, no, that is why I am initializing with another variable, grade is equal to, so the complete thing will be in a single line. So see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines are there, right? Instead of that, what you can do, you can represent it in single line, so the readability will be easy. Okay, so now let grade is equal to, as I mentioned, is a condition, right? And after this question mark, it represents the true condition, else the second condition, after this question mark the true condition, then colon, again else, another condition after the question mark, the true condition. Okay, finally the false condition is fail. Okay, so this is what the idea behind this one, right? So let me execute this instead of executing, because already we executed, right? So let me execute only this one, right? So okay, so what I can do is that let me run this. So it is showing as B, right? Let me 65, it will be showing as C, and finally if it is 55, then it will show it as fail. Okay, so this is what the idea behind this ternary operator. Very simple. So it is just an alternative for the if else statement. Okay, fine. So the next one is for loop. So as I mentioned in the last class, the for loop is used when we know how many times we want to repeat something. I'll repeat, the for loop is used when we know how many times we want to repeat something. Okay, that is what the for loop, that is the iterations or iterations which I discussed in the last class. Okay, so here the syntax of the for loop is, so initially you have to initialize with the variable and the variable with that condition. Okay, and then finally the incrementer operator. Okay, so this is the first, that is three things you have to mention in the for loop, similarly to the C language. Okay, so first is the initialization, then the condition, and then finally the incrementer operator. Okay, and then the statements inside the for loop, we will be giving the statements. Okay, so as I mentioned, it includes the initializer, condition, and the increment. Right, this is the for loop. Okay, so let I'll give an example. Let sum is equal to 0, and then this is the incrementer, initialization, condition, and the incrementer, and finally you will be having the conditions. Okay, console sum is equal to, so I'm printing the result of it. So let me try this. So here, so what it prints the value as 15, right? So if I'm executing this, it will print the value as 15. Okay, okay, so let me execute this. So it will print the value as 15. So how this 15 actually comes, let's see. So let me open a Word file and I'll tell you how this actually executes. So step by step how it is executed. Let me explain this. Fine. So layout, I make it as landscape. Right. Fine. So now this is very clear. Let me increase the size of it. Fine. Okay. So now it's clear here. Now, so what is the program? Let me copy and paste the code. Okay. Right. So let me increase the font this for this also, so that it will be easy for you to understand clearly. Okay, fine. So initially what the sum is going to be 0, right? And then the value of I is initialized as 1. Okay, that is the first iteration. Okay, that is why here I is equal to 1. Now initially what is the value of sum? Sum will be 0, right? And when you're executing this condition, that's the first iteration, this particular statement will be 0 plus 1 and the result will be what? 1, right? Now for the second iteration, what is happening is that I will be 2, right? So this I will be 2, and then what is the sum here? Sum will be actually 1. Okay, so now 1 plus 2, that is sum is actually 1 and the I value is incremented to 2. So 1 plus 2, it will be 3, right? So now what is the sum here? 3. Okay, so now the sum is 3 and the iteration I value is actually incremented to 3 because it is I plus plus, right? It is incremented to 3, and then it is 3 here. The sum of the values, sum of the previous addition is actually 3. That is why here 3 is. So 3 plus 3, it will be 6. Okay, because the iteration is 3 and the sum is also, sorry, the sum is 3 and the iteration is also 3. That is why it is 6. Now what is the next iteration? It is going to be 4 and the sum is 6. So what is happening? 6 plus 4 will be 10. The next iteration is what? 5, the final iteration, right? Because the condition is I is less than or equal to 5. So up to 5 it will execute. Okay, now it is going to be 10 here, the sum. So 10 plus 5 it will be 15. So this is what actually the execution steps or execution iteration of this for loop. Okay, so for each iteration how the execution is happening, that is what I have shown here, starting from the first iteration to the 5th iteration, because I have given I is less than or equal to 5 and I initialized with I is equal to 1. So totally what? 5 iterations are there. That is why this is the result. 15 is the result. Okay, I hope you understand the for loop clearly, right? So now let's move on to the next one, exercise 3. So what I have mentioned here, I have mentioned a flowchart here. So based on this flowchart, what you have to do is that you have to create a for loop. Okay, so what I am checking, I am starting with initializing with the incremental value I is equal to 1, and then the incrementer should be less than or equal to 10. So 10 iterations it will execute. Then I am checking for the modulus, I modulus 2. Percentage means it is mod, right? So I percentage 2 is equal to 0 or not. Whether the mod is equal to 0 or not. If it is yes, I am printing I. If it is not, I am skipping this, and then I have to execute the next iteration. So I am incrementing the next iteration, right? And then again it is going to the condition. So the next iteration will be the next value, and then it will check for the modulus. If it is 0, then it will print I. If it is not 0, then it will go to the. So what is going to happen? It is going to print the even number of values between the inside the value 10. Okay, from 1 to 10, what are the even numbers are there, that is actually print as an output. So this is what exercise 3. Please try it. Okay, try it. So totally I have given 3 exercise. I am expecting this to complete in before tomorrow, right? Tomorrow in the sense Wednesday when I am coming to the class, I am expecting all these 3 exercises to be completed. Fine. The next is while and do while loop. So it is very interesting to understand the difference between while and do while. As I mentioned in the class, 2 examples are there. For the example while, okay, for the example while, this is the example as I mentioned in the last class, right? So a person approach a club, okay, a club, right? And he is checking for a condition height is greater than or equal to greater than 5 feet. If he is greater than 5 feet, then only he is allowed to enter the club. If he is less than 5 feet, he is not allowed to enter the club. That is less than or equal to 5 means he won't be allowed to enter into the club. That is what the while loop. So in such cases, right, you have to use while loop. Okay. So initially you are checking the condition and then the statements are executed. That is what the while loop. For do while loop, let's take this particular analogy, right? So a person takes a chocolate, right? Whether he is allowed to test the taste of a chocolate, okay? Whether he is on the list or not, that is the condition, okay? And then if it is yes, then he is keep enjoying the chocolates, okay? And then if it is no, he has to stop at that point. So what is actually happening here? He is getting a chocolate and then only it is checked for a condition, okay? So in do while loop, it will execute the statement once and then it will check for the condition. I'll repeat here. It for do while loops, it will execute all the statement once and then only it will check for the condition. If the condition is true, then it will continue the execution. If the condition is false, it will stop the execution. Okay. So syntax for while loop. See, first it will check for the condition and then it will executing the statements. In do while loop, it is executing the condition first and then finally it is checking for the condition. Okay. So if the condition false, if it is coming out from the loop, if the condition is true, again it will do the iteration. This is what the idea behind while loop and do while loop. Right? And break and continue statement. Fine. So yesterday itself I gave you a clear idea about it. Then no issues. I'll again give you the idea. what is the difference between break and continue statements? So break will abruptly stops the execution from the current statement, and it will come out from the loop. So here for I have given the incremental value and the iteration numbers and the initialization, right? So three things are given here. Inside that, if I is equal to 3, I am breaking, okay, breaking this. So when it reaches the third iteration, if I is equal to 3, it will break the loop and it will come out from the loop, okay. If I am using continuous statement, what is happening is that it will execute all the instruction, but all the iteration, it will execute all the iteration, but when it reaches the third iteration, it won't print it. See, I have used continue right here. So what will happen is that it will continue to the next iteration. It won't execute this statement. What is the statement? Console.log. Let us check out the output in both the cases. Let's take what is the output for the break. Okay. So the first iteration, what is happening? Iteration I will be 1. And what is the I value? Again, it will be 1. The condition I is equal to 3, false, right? Because I is equal to 1 here, right? That is why it is false here. And then print I. So it will print the output as 1. And the second iteration, what is happening? I value will be 2. Whether it is equal to 3? No. It is going to be false, right? And then it is printing I. Okay. And then that output will be 2. Okay, fine. Now in the third iteration, what is happening? The I value will be 3 and the condition is satisfied. I is 3, right? So condition satisfies. That is why the condition is true. When the condition is true, immediately what will happen? It will break the action and it will stop. Okay. So it exit the loop and it will stop. So it will print only 1 and 2, right? Okay, let's take the continue statement, right? So instead of break, I am going to use it as continue. Now what is happening? Let's see. See, for the first one it's printing 1, for the second one it's printing 2, but the third iteration, what is happening? It is skipping the execution of the print, that is the console.log of I. Is skipping it, and then it is going to the fourth iteration. See, so output will be 1, 2, 4 and 5. It is not executing the third iteration. It is executing this console statement, right? It is continuing to the next iteration. That is what the difference between break and continue, right? So let me check in the console, go to the JavaScript and let me execute this. Okay. Let me run this. So it's printing only 1 and 2 because from the third iteration it is breaking the loop. Okay, that is why it is printing only 1 and 2, right? Let me take this continue statement example. Let me execute this. Okay. See, 1, 2, 4 and 5. 3 is not executed because if this condition is true, it is skipping this particular iteration and it is going to the next iteration. What? I is equal to 4. Okay, that is why it is printing 1, 2, 4 and 5. So this is the difference between break and continue, right? Okay, this is very useful statements because in the programming language, break and continue statements, it is used during the loop statements. Okay, when you are using loop based statements, it will be very useful, right? Fine. The next is nested conditions and loop. So here I am giving you another exercise. Okay, so this is the nested condition. So I have the first iteration, first for loop, and then again another for loop, and then I am printing this value, right? So what is your requirement? What is your exercise is? This is the output for this particular for loop. Okay, nested loop. Okay, so check out this output and what is wrong in this. Identify what is wrong in this. Okay. So I am expecting the answer from your side. So totally how many exercises are there? 4 exercises are there. So exercise 1 is temperature, exercise 2 is traffic light, exercise 3 is what is that, for loop, that is printing the even numbers, right? Exercise 3 is even numbers, and finally the 4th exercise is what is wrong in this output. This is the program works well perfectly, and whether you have to check that whether this particular output is correct or not, right? This is the final thing. Okay, anyway, I will be uploading the PowerPoint as well as the video in the website. Please check it and understand whatever things you want to understand, right? And if you have doubts, we'll discuss on the next class, that is the Wednesday's class, right? So what is the statement? I mean, what is the conclusion? Let's see. So now let me conclude with when and where to use. Okay, so to summarize, if conditions is used for making the decisions. Okay, switch conditions or switch statements are used for multiple fixed options, right? And the ternary for is used for short conditional assignments. Okay, if you want to represent it in a single line, you can go for ternary operator or ternary ternary statements. Okay, and then use the for loop when you know the exact number of repetitions. Okay, for what you have to do is that you can use the for loop, right, when you know the exact number of repetitions. Okay, finally the while and do while when you don't know the exact number of repetitions, right? Okay, fine. So this is what the summarization of the what is that, control statements. So please use this video for understanding all these concepts, and please complete the practice task. So 4 practice tasks are there, 4 exercises are there, complete it. So thank you.